Hi, I'm JJ, the Practical Alchemist, some people know me as, and I am delighted that you are joining me on my very new YouTube channel, Alternatively Speaking. Now, I already have a radio show on UK HealthRadio called Alchemy 101, and that is all about well-being and health. And, not in a sort of allopathic way, not in a mainstream way, but as alternatives that work and that I live by. I wanted to spread my wings a bit. I wanted to talk more about other things in an alternative way. So explore alternative viewpoints and alternative ways of living, hence alternatively speaking. And I thought it was fitting for this inaugural video on my YouTube channel to have an interview with somebody who's been instrumental in helping me get over some blocks in my life and allowing me to actually bring this YouTube channel to life. And that's Alexia Leachman, who's a coach, and she's the founder of Head Trash and has developed something called Head Trash Clearing. And she is amazing, and she's helped me get over something major that's been blocking my progression in this lifetime. She's also an expert on tokophobia, a word that I hadn't heard until a couple of months ago when she said that she helped people get over it. And lo and behold, that's something that I've suffered from all my life. Anyway, we'll get into that in a moment when we join Alexia and me for a chat about how she's helped me and how delighted I am that I'm now able to hopefully bring a lot more interesting topics and views and thoughts to you guys out there. Let's get into it. I'm loving that we're speaking today because when we last spoke, I had this huge realization, this huge aha moment that I had most of my life, up until that point, actually, suffered from something called tokophobia, which you know all about, fear of giving birth. And what I realized was that one of the ways that it was affecting me, not just in the actual fear of actually giving birth to an actual child, one of the ways that it was affecting me was that I was never able to birth things, anything, any creation into the world. And oh my word, has that changed? But not without its issues. And we'll talk about those in a second. But that's kind of one of the things that happens when you have a bit of an aha moment, a bit of a transformation moment in life. Not everything goes swimmingly, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I think when you realize something on the magnitude of what you realize, and also tokophobia, no one's really heard about it, even though it affects up to 35% of women. And so, and it's rooted in trauma. It's complex, severe anxiety disorder. It doesn't mess about in terms of the mental health impact that it has on women. And so, to but as happened for you, many women don't realize they have it. So they go through life kind of not knowing why they maybe put their foot to the floor with their business or their work because they want to be a career girl. No, family's not for me, but they don't realize why they're thinking that. They just think that's modern women for you kind of attitude potentially. And so suddenly when you uncover that you've got this thing that you didn't realize was a thing that is a thing and that you have the thing, and then that aha moment or that realization can be quite like just incredible. But then to conquer it is another level as well. So I think the realization with the work that I do in helping women to conquer this is once they realize that what they're suffering from is a known thing, there's a huge amount of relief that comes from that. But then the next part is, okay, now you know you've got this thing. Now, do you want to get rid of this thing? Do you want to sort it? Do you want to conquer it? Do you want to heal it? Okay, and then that's where the real journey starts, because that will look different for everybody. But you incredibly were able to kind of leak through that part quite fast, given the work that you do and where you're at. And so you've now kicked off this and the next part of your journey in quite formidable style. From at least that's how it looks from my end.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Yes. Well, I did leap through all these kind of aha moments and kind of go, okay, right, okay, yeah, right, got it now.
Yeah.
But then I had to go through a death and rebirth, literally. Yes, literally. Short of actually leaving my body, I think. Um, everything. So we last spoke in October 2023. So 5 months ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're in
In
February.
yeah,
Yeah.
in those 5 months, I have been to yeah, it has just been extraordinarily difficult. Like everything kind of died away, but it had to.
Mm.
I was talking to you when we were talking earlier before we started recording. I was saying, like my car died and my washing machine died, and and even good friends died. Everything around me was dying, and inside, I was also being brought to a point where I felt that I was dying to a
Mm.
great extent. It felt like the Tibetan Buddhists have a notion of something called bardo, which is when you just are stripped of everything before you are allowed to ascend or before you get to enlightenment. And it kind of felt like a living bardo where everything was being stripped away.
Mm.
But I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew that I had to let go of all these things that were cluttering my life and keeping me from achieving what I want to achieve before I could move forward. And I feel that we've got to that point. I've got to that point now, which is why I'm so happy to speak to you now, because A, I want to say thank you, but B, wanted to just underline for all these people out there, all these women out there who might have this condition, tokophobia, without knowing it.
Mm.
Maybe if you're stuck and you can't bring whatever it is that you want to birth into the world, maybe that's what it is. But remember, it's not always an easy journey.
No, it's not. And then when we're stuck, it can be really difficult to figure out the way out of that, because we just feel like we're in a swamp and you can't even climb the sides because it just feels like you keep just slipping straight back in. And so identifying maybe the reason why you're feeling this stuckness can be such a huge, well, can just suddenly give you a way out, even though it doesn't make it an easier way out. It's a way out for sure. So, but this feeling of stuckness is very interestingly one of the major themes that I work a lot with these women that are suffering from tokophobia is the theme of feeling trapped, which is basically stuck. And this theme of trapped is pervasive throughout the whole of the pregnancy, birth, motherhood journey, because once you're pregnant, you're trapped on that train until the baby shows up, unless you choose to have an abortion or unless you lose the baby, which neither are the very desirable options. Then once labor kicks off, you're trapped in that process until the baby shows up. There's no like, no, that's me done. No, that's enough for today. I'm going to go home. You're stuck until the baby shows up. And then when you're a mother, you're stuck then until they leave home. So the whole of that journey has got these trapping elements that are present, which brings with it this sense of just the weight of that trappedness. Just the thing about these patterns and these feelings that we have is patterns don't worry about what aspect of life they're affecting. They're like blankets. They just go and affect everything. So you can't just go, I feel stuck in my work and it's just my work life in a little package over here. No, that stuckness is going to be in your relationship, in your home, in your whatever. Like it's just a pattern in your life. And so, wrestling with these patterns, when you do figure a way out, when you figure out the route and you find a way out, it can be incredibly transformational, because suddenly that pattern is clear from all aspects of your life. And suddenly there can be this sense of almost like a propulsion of boom, suddenly here I am leaping into action. And it certainly looks like that's what you're going through, this leaping into action where maybe you've been held back
Well, it does feel like that. It really does. However, what's been going through my head as you've been speaking is, wow, I wonder whether that period, that 5 month period, was the actual giving birth period where you are, because you said, you're stuck in that, in
Yeah.
that, in that birth moment. I wonder whether that was what happens. Is you have to. It's almost like you have to let go of everything and allow it to come through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was coming into my. I
We're
haven't thought about it
gestating.
that before.
Yeah, your ideas were germinating, gestating, they were taking shape. I think once the confines have been, the shackles have been broken off, let's say, suddenly the energy is then free to start doing its thing, marinating, merging, creating. And those things were that process had kicked off. That creation process was now unlocked for you. But as we all know, like, cooking an amazing dinner does not happen in 5 minutes flat, does it? There's a lot of prep work, a lot of chopping, a lot of simmering, a lot of stirring. And so that's really what essentially has been going on beneath the surface for you, is this kind of marinating, simmering process. And now you're like, you lift the lid, here's my dinner, ta-da! I'm ready to serve.
Yes. And of course, again, it's that notion where suddenly you emerge into the world and everybody thinks, oh, that's been very, very easy. A great chef can make it look very simple, but actually it's not. It's not at all. And the amount of training. So, that birthing process is a bit similar. It's not necessarily easy, but what comes out at the end can be pretty marvelous. And I feel great now. I'm very clear about where I go forward. I've been doing UK HealthRadio, my show Alchemy 101, for a long time now, but then I realized I wanted to do so much more. I'll continue to do this, but then my YouTube channel, Alternatively Speaking, where I can just talk about other things other than health, and then writing as well. All these things that I've been wanting to do for I don't know how long and have never managed to. All suddenly doable.
Mm.
Extraordinary.
It is incredible. It's incredible how that creation part of you was shut down and how
Yeah.
it's flowing again.
Yeah.
And where that, and understanding your backstory with, from what I can remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you were being born, you had the cord around your neck, which is part of the original trauma that potentially put all of this in place for you. So, of course, when you can't breathe, there's nothing that's going to come through. There's no air, there's no oxygen. So now the oxygen's flowing, and life is coming forth in these projects for you, which I think it's a lesson for a lot of people to learn from this, that something that can be incredibly, what looks like completely unrelated, disconnected, nothing to do with, like, how can that thing over there that would happen, can affect this over here? But actually, I think what a lot of people don't realize is the impact of our own birth experiences and how they set the blueprint, the emotional blueprint, and the trajectory of our life. Because so much of our experiences are, and also when we're in conception, when we're in the womb, how when we're being created in the womb, we're marinating in the emotions of our mother. The whole of that creation process where our cells are being pulled together is, that's the fabric of our being is being created right there. And so what are the conditions that we were being created in? But then what were the conditions when we arrived in the world? Like, what was that arrival like? What were our first glimmers of life outside of the womb like? How did people interact with us? What was our exit like? There's a lot of evidence around the arrival of your birth. So, for example, a C-section baby who has been pulled out, essentially, they find it very difficult to initiate things on their own because they haven't had to initiate that journey down the birth canal. So they often need to be pulled out of situations because they can't get themselves out of those situations. So, understanding your mode of arrival could provide a lot of insight into why you are the way you are and why you behave the way you do. And I think a lot of people miss the opportunity to look at their birth, look at their conception, their time in the womb, to see what that might provide for them in terms of opportunities for growth, because a lot of people don't look there, and it's rich with information and answers and insights as to why we are the way we are.
I think you're absolutely right. And yes, I know that the care of an infant before the infant is born is hugely important. What goes on around is hugely important. And I suspect that my own mother wasn't looking forward as much as she might have been to my birth. I was, quotes, a mistake. You know, I came along much later than my two sisters. And I don't think it was the most joyous thing. Now, she always said that as soon as she saw me, she felt, you know, obviously she loved me and all of that. But you can imagine how there would have been some apprehension, to say the least, when she was going through the pregnancy, and that will have filtered down as well. And, you know, I think one of the interesting things also to come out of all of this, for which I'm hugely grateful to you, I talked a lot last year and talked a lot with our late dear friend, Dr. Mark Goulston, about me struggling to find my voice, you know, my voice, talk about what I believe in, what about all about the things that I understand in life and want to share. Always found it difficult to do that in any great way. Well, no, not anymore. Not anymore, frankly. I'm absolutely all for going all out there. And I've got a little event happening online at the end of the month on the 29th of February called an introduction to energy clearing. And now this is something I've been doing for decades, but have I really talked a great deal about it? No. But it's time to change all that. It's time to share what I know, share my knowledge. I mean, look, I'm getting on in life, and I've seen a few things, and why not? Why not share some of that and get it out there? So, this has been the other thing that's come out of amazingly just a couple of conversations that we had, which has been extraordinary.
Yeah. No, the power of conversation, I think, is extraordinary, actually.
Yeah, and absolutely. Just the other week, actually, we had Stephen Qualco on, who's in the States and is a PR executive, very successful. His work is also about the power of conversation. Start the conversation. The transformational power of conversation. So here we are, living proof of the power of that kind of conversation, but also that your work is so important, and how it's not just about actually physically giving birth to babies, although that is also great. And I thank you so much for it, because
my pleasure.
Well, because I mean, as I think I said to you at the time, I wish we'd had this conversation years ago.
Yeah, a lot of women that I work with wish they'd met me years ago, and they see the transformation that come about with the work that I do with people. And I know we haven't actually worked together. It was the conversation, and then you did a lot of that at your end. But when you are able to kind of process and let go of something like tokophobia, and whether it's that or even anxiety or whatever else you might be struggling with, the repercussions on your life, the impact, and the transformation that people see in their life as a result of kind of addressing these things is just phenomenal. And really, if I would just urge anybody that is wrestling with anything from an emotional perspective, or whether it's depression or anxiety or a phobia, whatever it is, to kind of hunt down a solution that's going to really help you to change. Because one thing that you'll be left with is, why did I not do this sooner? Why did I leave it so long? Because and really, why I get some women that have tokophobia like, well, I wonder if I should wait till I'm pregnant before I work on this.
Right.
It's like, no, because why should you wait to feel better? Why are you delaying you feeling better about yourself? Because it can be such a pervasive phobia and anxiety disorder that you are worth more than this. Don't wait another year to feel better. Feel better now. Yeah, like go after this now, because you've got a life to live. Whether or not there's a child there, whatever that looks like for you, you are stuck with you. You can't escape you. You have to get along better with yourself, be more comfortable with your company, be at peace with yourself. Why wait for any of that? That needs to be brought forward, prioritized in people's lives.
Yeah, but you can imagine how women will think that it is only to do with the physical act of giving birth, you know, and that they'll kind of mistakenly think that that's the only thing that they need to deal with. They think that it's, you know, the fear of physically popping out, or, you know, going through pregnancy and popping out this lovely little baby. It's much more than that. Much more.
Yeah, because in fact, a lot of the fears and the conflicts that make up tokophobia have got nothing to do with birth.
Yeah.
A lot of women, they think, oh, it's because I don't, you know, I'm thinking about cesarean, I'm thinking about, you know, they're thinking about tearing, they're thinking about birthy, physiological birthing process things. But actually, I very rarely work on those things with people. It's always a fear of losing control. It's fear of being trapped, which we've already talked about. It's a fear of uncertainty. It's a fear of change. I mean, these are human fears that everybody has. This isn't just pregnant women. This is humans have these fears, but they all come together in a certain way to create a really fun, like really big block for those that are on that pregnancy journey, especially if you're, you know, certain of those fears and conflicts are very, very strong and there's a trauma behind that really embeds that in. But these are things that we all have. Who hasn't got a fear of uncertainty? Who hasn't got a fear of change? We all have that because it's part of survival. It's part of how we've been created. It's about restoring balance to those fears, making sure they don't drive the show. It means that you need to be able to master them and not be controlled by them. And that's just good old self-mastery. But that's, you need to do some healing work to get to a place where you've got self-mastery.
Yes, you do need to do that. Although I will say that, you know, I've done a lot of work over the years, but never ever did I quite get to the nub of it all. Which I think is probably partly why I'm so delighted and astonished that we managed to get to the heart of it within, I think, 2 conversations. And I finally got to the very heart of issues that kept me back throughout my entire life and made me play small. And, you know, and a lot of people will look at my life and say, well, you've been successful. Well, you know, but wasn't quite there, you know, wasn't quite doing all I can do. Time to do it now, though.
Yeah. Got a whole new chapter ahead of you now, JJ.
I know. Very exciting. Very exciting. So, yeah, so I thought it was lovely to, or would be lovely, and it is lovely to have you back on the show and talk about how I have developed 5 months on from those very important conversations in my life. And hopefully other people will get such a lot from these conversations that we've had, because I think it's really important. One thing I do want to ask is, do men suffer from tokophobia?
Yes, they do. I've not had men come to me to work on that, but I had a very interesting experience early on in my birth work when I was recording I wanted to do a lot of videos and create some content for an online program I was creating. And so I hired a videographer to be my video guy. And he was like 19, you know, and so I had all my stuff, you know, set up, and we rented a studio. We had, you know, the backdrops and everything was makeup, all the rest, you know, had it all set up. And about an hour in, he's like, I can't do this. I'm gonna be sick. I'm gonna faint. I can't bear listening to you. And it's like, excuse me, what do you mean you can't bear listening? Because I think I'm gonna collapse. I can't listen to this. It's making me really nauseous. And it's like, and I was like, wow, that's nuts. I'd never really, you know, could like really grasp the thought that maybe men could suffer from this. But of course, it's so obvious because the root trauma for many with tokophobia is their own birth. So it doesn't matter that it's a guy. He could also have a traumatic birth experience. That means that the whole idea of talking about birth canals and giving birth and labor, that's going to bring up the same kind of neuroses that would have brought up with me. I couldn't look at a diagram of a birth canal when I was pregnant, because even just the diagram in my pregnancy book showing how the baby was going to squeeze through there, I could feel a panic attack rising and had to close the book immediately. Now, it doesn't matter that I've got the biological bits to do that,
Yeah.
it can still trigger that within you. So to answer your question, absolutely yes. And there are so many dads that can't be in the birth room when their women are giving birth. They can't be there, and they're the ones that are fainting and need the support. And I think that's tokophobia at play.
I think that might be the case. Yeah, I can see how that would be the case. And yeah, it makes sense that men would have it as well. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, so it's also interesting to me that, having done a lot of work on myself and done a lot of things within the neuro-linguistic programming arena, timeline therapy, that sort of thing, where you supposedly go back to first cause of any issues, never ever quite landed at that point of my birth. Now, maybe that's because I wasn't ready to deal with it. Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe it was because not naming it, not being able to name it as tokophobia, was a barrier to seeing it, which, might be one way of explaining it. I don't know, but I think it's curious that I've done a lot of work on myself over the years and a lot of things. And no, I used to get frustrated and think, no, we're still not getting there. Still not there. And then along came you, and we talked about tokophobia, and wham, there we were.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled that it created such a profound transformation in you, and what we can look forward to seeing from you now that you've been let go, like released from the grips of it.
Yes, exactly. And if anybody else wants to be released from the grips of it, Alexia, how do they get in touch with you? Where do they find you? Because you've also got, you've got start that again. You've also got your business called Head Trash, haven't you? So tell us about all of that.
So when I had tokophobia, I healed it in myself, and that was the start of my own journey. And so I developed a method for healing my own tokophobia. At the time, it couldn't be done. The doctors say just have a C-section and you'll deal with it, honey. That was the vibe. And so that was the beginning of that. That's where I developed my healing modality, which is called Head Trash Clearance. So I wrote a book for women that help them to unpack their fears and heal their fears themselves. And so that book is called Fearless Birthing. So people can learn all about how to use head trash clearance and apply it specifically in the context of pregnancy and birth in that book. Whereas if you're not pregnant and you're just not really bothered about healing pregnancy fears and you just want to clear your head trash, then there's the Clear Your Head Trash book. So you can learn head trash clearance. And that is where you can heal your anxiety or any travel phobia, I don't know, like fear of flying, whatever it is that's, it doesn't discriminate what it can help you with. So yeah, if you want to sort of find out how you can get support for general stuff, then clearyourheadtrash.com. And if you have birth related or pregnancy related things, then at fearfreechildbirth.com, which is, I've got a podcast, the Fear Free Childbirth podcast, lots and lots of interviews of women that have conquered tokophobia, talking about what that journey's like. So you can hear, okay, if I want to get on this journey and I want to heal this, what does that look like? Here, if you want to listen to other people that have done that, then you can hear lots and lots of stories of women that have done that too. So you can see what's in store and what that transformation can mean for you. Take your pick, whether you want to clear general head trash or birthing head trash.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, do check out both of those books, in fact, especially if you're a woman and you're thinking about giving birth to a baby at some stage. But no, wonderful. Thank you for all the work that you do. Thank you for joining me today. And thank you for everything that you've done for me, and hopefully for many, many more people to come. Thanks, Alexia.
Thank you, JJ. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe and do all the things that YouTubers constantly tell us to do. It is the only way that we're going to get this channel off the ground. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Come back for more. See you soon.